Okay, we're live. Commissioner Chavez, whenever you're
Awesome.
ready.
All right, commissioners and staff, good afternoon. Welcome to Caddo Parish Commission virtual regular meeting agenda. It is 3:31. Call this meeting to order. Mr. Everson, roll call, please.
Commissioner Hopkins,
Present.
Commissioner Johnson, Commissioner Jackson, Commissioner Young, Commissioner Burrell, Commissioner Cawthorn,
Present.
Commissioner Gage Watts, Commissioner Talaferro,
Yes, sir.
Commissioner Atkins,
Here.
Commissioner Chavez,
Here.
Commissioner Lazarus,
Here.
and Commissioner Epperson.
Here.
Thank you very much. That's 7 present and then 5 absent, and that does give you a quorum.
Thank you, Mr. Everson. Commissioners, please silence your cell phones. Place your cell phones on Wi-Fi if you're in a bad network area. We will have our invocation led by Commissioner Taliaferro, followed by our Pledge of Allegiance by Commissioner Cawthorn.
And let us pray. Heavenly Father, Lord Jesus, we do love you, and because we do, we are so thankful for the many blessings that you have given us, that you have given our nation. But we beg you for your forgiveness when we have said harsh words or performed actions against one another, and ask your grace when we have fallen short of what it truly means to be a child of yours. Help us to be mindful of the needs of others and those less fortunate than ourselves. Bless our elected officials, bless our first responders, and bless those on the front lines of COVID. Lord, bless this meeting today and those who are attending. Bless those who cannot be in our presence today as well, and keep them safe. Lord, we ask these many blessings in your name. Amen.
Amen.
May we all stand for the Pledge of Allegiance and please present the proper salute. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you, commissioners. Mr. Everson, do we have any agenda additions?
Not aware of any agenda additions other than, this is where we would consider that motion to approve the consideration of items under Louisiana Revised Statute 4217.1. So if there's a motion to do that, and I can also just draw your attention to the certificate of teleconference here, that would put us in compliance with a 2/3 vote.
Would we need to make a vote on expanding the agenda to add this, or just vote on bringing this to the agenda?
No, it's an agenda item. It just
Okay.
needs action.
All right.
So
Did I hear a motion?
I heard one. I didn't hear who it was.
Hopkins.
Hopkins.
Hopkins. Okay. And the chair will second. All right. I have Commissioner Ken Epperson on the board, and then VP Johnson.
I'm on for an agenda addition.
Okay. I'll get you on there. Got it. VP Johnson, did you want to make a comment on this?
I was trying to figure out what was the agenda addition.
This is the motion to approve the consideration of items under Louisiana RS 4217-1.
And Commissioner Johnson, this is, if you'll recall, the other day was the first time we did this, and in the work session, it shows up a little differently than in a regular session. But this is the requirement in order to consider a broader range of items on a teleconference meeting. So that's all
Okay. This one that takes the 2/3 vote.
You're right. Yes, that's it.
Okay. All right. Thanks.
All right. I see no one else on the board. Roll call vote, please.
Okay, Commissioner Hopkins,
Yes.
Commissioner Johnson,
Yes.
Commissioner Jackson, Commissioner Young, Commissioner Burrell, Commissioner Cawthorn,
Yes.
Mr. Everson, can you hear us? I think he went muted.
I got unmuted. I got muted. I'm so sorry. We had somebody else joining. Okay, I'm sorry. Commissioner Gage Watts.
He's muted.
Commissioner Gage Watts, you're muted.
Yes, I'm sorry.
Thank you. All right, it's okay. Commissioner Talaferro.
Yes.
All right, thank you. Commissioner Atkins.
Yes.
Commissioner Chavez.
Yes.
Commissioner Lazarus.
Yes.
And Commissioner Epperson.
Yes.
Thank you
I'm
very
here.
much. That I counted 9 of 12.
I'm
And
here, Jeff.
wait, oh, great. Thank you. Commissioner Burrell, did you want to vote for the, this is to approve the agenda to hear the full agenda via teleconference?
That'll be fine. Yes, that's fine.
Okay, great. Okay, that's 10 in favor and 2 absent. So that motion carries.
Thank you,
And
Mr. Everson. We do have Commissioner Epperson on the board for an agenda addition. Commissioner Epperson, would you like to make that motion?
Yes, I'd like to move to reconsider resolution number 74 of 2020.
All right, and you want to state that resolution, or Mr. Everson, do you have that available for statement?
this is the resolution for that you asked about earlier, Commissioner Epperson?
No, 74 is the resolution that Ms. Watts had brought up.
Oh, from the
Relative
meeting
to,
the other day.
Right.
Yes, absolutely. Let me pull it up real quick and I can read that. But that's the one regarding the ballot boxes, correct?
That's correct.
Okay, 1 second. I will pull that up. Okay, it's authorizing resolution number 74. What was considered on the agenda the other day was authorizing resolution number 74 of 2020. It's a resolution urging and requesting the Louisiana State Legislature to authorize the use of ballot boxes and to extend the early voting period and otherwise providing with respect thereto.
Thank you, Mr. Everson. Just for clarification, guys, on a reconsider, I believe it has to be from the prevailing side. It has to bring it back.
Well, if you let me explain.
Oh, go ahead. I'm sorry.
Okay. Did I get a second?
Yeah, I second.
Yes. Okay. All right. As you're aware, resolution number 74, which was on our agenda Monday, it failed. It was 5-5. So therefore, there was not a prevailing side. However, that would leave the option open to either the one that opposed or against to reconsider. My reason for reconsideration is because resolution number 74 is basically relevant to resolution number 69 of 2020, which we had previously passed. It does not, a resolution does not carry weight of law. All it is a request. So this would go hand in hand with resolution number 69, which we submitted to pass and submitted to the proper authorities to increase early voting precincts. So this is relevant, and we're just looking at another option which we can make it more easy for our voters to vote in Caddo Parish. And the decision is strictly left up to the bodies where these resolutions are to go for final approval. And I ask your support on that.
Thanks, Commissioner Epperson. Vice President Johnson, did you want to make a comment of that, or were you on the board for something else?
No, I was just seconding that.
I got you. I saw your hand up for a second.
No.
I have no one else on the board. Mr. Everson, roll call vote.
Need
All
to
right.
open it up for a public hearing. You're adding
Oh,
something to the agenda.
That's right. We have to expand it. And I guess let me talk to Attorney Fraser. I know Commissioner Epperson can school most of us on parliamentary procedure, but when it comes to a tie, who is actually the prevailing side? Is it the whom votes yes or no that's able to reconsider?
There is no prevailing side, so either side can make the motion.
We got a veteran of war and a veteran of politics.
Politics too now.
Oh, I said it. I said a veteran of war, and a Better than politics.
And I'm looking at Robert's Rules of Order.
Ken usually always knows his stuff. That's why we'll open the floor. I'll declare this public comment session open to expand the agenda and add resolution 74 of 2020. If you'd like to speak either for or against, go ahead and call in. Mr. Everson, you want to give them the phone number?
Absolutely. That number is 318-226-6596. Again, that's 226-6596.
While we're waiting for the calls, Mr. Everson, I know you're the only one down there at the commission, so thanks for holding down the fort.
Thank you. Thank you. Please forgive me if I get a bit distracted. The other staff is still helping, but we're all social distance office policy. So
It just, for any commissioners that may not know, Linda and Deputy Nations are all COVID quarantined at their houses. Not that they have it, but just for distance purposes.
Mr.
Nobody's
President,
calling in. We'll go ahead and close.
Mr. President.
I'm sorry, Commissioner Burrell, were you saying something?
Yes, sir. I was. I guess I'm concerned that if they are quarantined, it did not have anything to do with another COVID case in the commission's area.
Mr. Everson, this is in regards
we're just the whole building is doing a social distance office policy right now. So we're just rotating throughout the whole building and we're just complying with that. You know, all of the parish staff is doing that. So.
All right. Okay. Thank you.
All right. I'll declare this public hearing closed and we can vote on adding this to the agenda. Mr. Everson, roll call vote, please.
Commissioner Hopkins.
Yes.
Commissioner Johnson.
Yes.
Commissioner Jackson. See you, but it is you.
Yeah.
Okay. Commissioner Young.
Yes.
Commissioner Burrell.
Yes.
Commissioner Cawthorn.
Yes.
Commissioner Gage Watts.
Yes.
Commissioner Taliaferro.
Yes.
Commissioner Atkins.
No.
Commissioner Chavez.
Yes.
Commissioner Lazarus.
No.
Commissioner Epperson.
Yes.
All right, that motion does not carry. It has 10 in favor and 2 in opposition, but agenda additions are required to be unanimous. So that brings us, unless there are any more agenda additions.
Let me check with VP real quick. VP, you had your hand up. Did you want to make an agenda addition after Commissioner Epperson? No? Okay. No, Mr. Everson, we'll move on.
Okay, that brings us to citizens' comments then. So at this time, I could give out that phone number again, and we can give a minute to see if any additional citizens call in. I do have one citizens comment that we received electronically. But if you'd like, I'll go ahead and give that number out.
Yes, and then was that from Councilwoman Taylor?
It is.
Okay, we'll go ahead and read hers while we wait for the phone to ring.
That phone number is 318-226-6596. Again, 318-226-6596. And while we wait to see if there are any calls, Councilwoman Tabitha Taylor submitted the following public comment. She says, I hope this email finds you all well. I would like this read into the record. I overwhelmingly support the ordinance introduced by Commissioner Gage Watts. COVID has presented a number of challenges for families within our parish and abroad. I do believe initiatives such as these show unwavering support in such unprecedented times. Not being able to take care of your family is difficult. Not being able to take care of your families is difficult. The initiative is a supportive step. I'm asking for your full support. God bless and take care and have a safe Thanksgiving from Councilwoman Tabitha Taylor in District A. And I do not see any calls that have come in.
Yep, we'll move along, Mr. Everson.
Okay. We will move to the next section is our visitors section. We do have a few people scheduled in the section here today. I know that we have some. First up is our Caddo Parish Complete Counts Census Committee, and I see we have a few members of that committee here.
All right. Let's see. I don't know. I guess whomever wants to speak first from the census. I got a couple of you on. You want to welcome to the commission meeting today, guys.
And Commissioner Chavez, did you want me to read the certificate? I attached a sample of one of the certificates on the agenda, but I didn't know if you wanted to talk a little bit about it or.
This one's for the census.
Yes.
Yeah, let's read it. It's very well written, by the way. Good job.
So each of the members of the Census Committee of Team Caddo is receiving a special recognition. It's a friend certificate of appreciation, and I'll read one just as a sample. This is a certificate of appreciation. The Caddo Parish Commission salutes and commends Gene Woods for being an outstanding and committed volunteer for the Caddo Complete Census Count Committee and doing all that you can to ensure that Caddo is counted. On this 8th day of October 2020, this certificate is presented as a lasting record of Team Caddo's commitment and hard work to the citizens of Caddo Parish. And we have a similar certificate and some additional recognition to share with each of the members of the committee.
Thank you, Mr. Everson. And to the Census Committee, thanks for coming on here. We wanted to give this to you in person, but obviously because of COVID, it was not achievable. But we didn't want your work to go unnoticed and let you know that we know how hard you guys worked throughout COVID. Day in and day out, you guys went door to door, made numerous emails, phone calls, kept each one of us commissioners abreast of what was going on. And we just wanted to let you know how much we appreciated you and how much we're thankful for the success of Caddo Parish in this last census. I see Deborah, you're on here as well. I didn't know if you wanted to say anything.
Well, I just want to say thanks. We appreciate it. I appreciate you all for having the count, and that we thoroughly enjoyed working together and doing what we need to do. All of the different events and the different places that we went to have events and the people that we met. It was a good thing, and we did our best to try to get as many citizens registered as we could.
You guys did a great job. Deborah, I have Commissioner Burrell that would like to say something. Commissioner Burrell?
I would just like to commend him on the work. I know it was difficult, but I did want to ask, how did they feel in terms of the coverage that we got in Caddo Parish?
Deborah, would you like to take that question?
Deborah.
Well, let's let Gene speak on that.
Okay.
I don't want to just say everything. It's several of us. Mm-hmm.
Clifton Starks, can you hear me okay?
Hey,
Yeah,
Mr. Stark, yes, we can.
Okay, well, thank you, Mr. President, and thank you all for, having us. We definitely appreciate that. And I want you to know that first, I want to thank my commissioner, Ken Epperson, for selecting me to participate within that team group. But I want you to know that that team group, those ladies, they really worked hard. I like to be with different groups, but I don't like to be with the ones that like to work all the time. They really did a tremendous job for Caddo. I'm very proud of each and every one of them. And we tried to do everything that we could to make sure that we get people signed up and let them know about the 2020 census. So thank you all again, and appreciate you. And I appreciate each and every one of y'all. And it's a couple other things that I like to say, but I feel that I'll be out of order, Mr. President, but if you can give me a minute or two, I'd like to say something else. It's not pertaining to the census though.
Absolutely, Mr. Stark, go ahead.
Okay. Well, I want to thank all of you all 12 of you all. Y'all does a tremendous job, and you represent the parish of Caddo. And I want you to know that by representing the parish of Caddo, I have friends that live in most or all of y'all districts. You all have friends that live in other districts. And my organization here at Central Trades, the FLCIO, we always try to support anything that comes from the commissioner to help the Caddo Parish. We always support it and make sure that we get our people out to vote and support it. With saying that, I was trying to say in the beginning is that I would like for you all, I think Commissioner Epperson said something about Resolution 74. I don't know if it was pertaining to a satellite voting place, but I really plead with all 12 of you all to make it happen. We have election every 2-4 years, local and state election. And with us being the largest parish in North Louisiana, we need to have some satellite places. So thank y'all so much, and I appreciate all you do. And thank you,
Mr. Starks. And
Mr. President,
yes, sir.
I'm not sure, I'm not clear whether or not my question was answered, and it doesn't necessarily have to be answered here. We could take it up later. The question that I did ask, and before I do that, I want to send a shout out to Cammie Wright, who represented my district well, very, very well. But the question that I did ask, how well do they feel that the parish was covered in terms of the effectiveness of the census, taking the census this year?
That's a great question. Gene, you on here? I had a feeling that you wanted to speak next.
Okay, Commissioner Burrell,
Yes,
I think the parish was covered very well. We did several events, and with those events, I think it was covered very well. The participation was really high. And like I said, we had some team members within that team that did some hard work. And I think it covered very well.
Okay, well, that's what I want to hear.
Okay.
Thank you, Cliff.
Thank you, Commissioner Burrell. Mr. Starks, just to touch on it really quick, I think next year you'll be happy to hear that we've already talked with the registrar of voters, and we should be getting 2 additional sites. And we passed a resolution to send out to the state legislator asking for that. So I think you'll see what you're asking for next year. Ms. Woods, are you on with us?
Thank you so much. I appreciate you.
Absolutely.
Let me add just one thing to that about the coverage. We also had, and I'm sure Gene was going to say this, one of the radios, Elaw and Mercedes, I believe it was, and they were at a lot of our events where they broadcast us live on their radio stations, and we shouted out to our friends and people and had them to make sure they go and turn their census reports statements in and all of that. So we had some very good coverage through them.
Wonderful. Yeah. Well, they're 2 of our responsible citizens, especially in the media area. So that's great. Thank you.
Well, I think maybe Jean's, she may be away because I know she's usually never quiet, but we thank you guys for all coming, and we'll definitely get a copy of that resolution sent to each one of you.
Yes. President Chavez?
Yes, sir, Commissioner Watts.
Yes, I have I don't think you see my hand up. I just want to say to all of our volunteers, thank you so much for your diligence and your participation in making sure that Caddo was counted. That was very important to me when we began this census committee. So I just wanted to personally thank each of you for everything that you gave. It meant so much. And we hope that this is just a token of our love to show you our appreciation for your service.
I have Commissioner Cawthorn. I'm sorry, Deborah, I didn't know if you were saying something. I had Commissioner
I
Cawthorn.
just said, thank you.
Oh, okay.
Mhm.
Commissioner Cawthorn?
Yes, Commissioner Chavez, I don't know if you have before you the list of all of the persons that volunteered in their respective districts. So we could, if you got a second, we can just list all of those people.
Yeah, it's actually on the resolution. Mr. Everson, will you read that off?
I'm sorry. You want me to just read the names of the members of the committee real quick?
Yeah, yes, please.
Yes.
Yeah, sure thing. I'm sorry. We've got Jean Woods, Jacqueline Paul, and then Melissa Harkins Smith. We've got Pat Harwell. We've got Sheila Reinders. We've got Deborah Seamster. Clifton Starks, of course. Cammie Wright. And Amari Hossein. And we actually did also include the 2 DJs that were mentioned earlier. They seem to be special volunteers, and Miss Woods, Jean Woods, was so helpful in letting us know that they had done a little extra effort. So we recognize them as well.
Can't work hard without music.
Thank you very much, Commissioner.
Thank you, Commissioner Cawthorn.
And
Commissioner
Ms.
Everson.
Woods is on the call. She's on via phone.
Oh, okay. That's who that number is. I got you. Commissioner Epperson?
Mr. Chairman, if you would please ask everyone that isn't speaking to please mute their devices. We're getting all kind of collateral noises.
Absolutely. And host, if you can do that as well.
I will.
All right.
I'll try to mute who I am able to. Okay, did you is that conclude that?
Yes, sir.
Okay, great.
Board.
Well, that brings us to the next item, which is Providence House. We do have, I see Millie and Vernie. I believe they have 2 or 3 representatives on the call. I'm not sure who wanted to go first.
Hi, hello, I'm Millie Flowers. I'm the Director of Marketing and Community Engagement. Thank you guys so much for having us today. Actually, our president of the Board of Directors is joining us, but he's muted on the phone. So I don't know if you're able to unmute him.
Which number is he?
678-357.
I just asked him to unmute. So I just, did what we can do from our side to unmute him.
Sure. Dan, if you can hear me, if you can unmute your phone. That's him. And we also have our CAO, Shelly Marshall, joining us. She is sitting in for Miss Bernie. Okay, Dan, I'll let you take it away.
Okay, perfect. My name is Dan Ferris, and I have the distinct honor and pleasure of serving as board chairman at Providence House. 2020 has certainly been a tumultuous year, but even in the midst of a pandemic, we have continued to remain focused on our mission, breaking the homeless cycle one family at a time. The work certainly has not been easy for our team, but we have persevered. Simply put, we could not have made it this far along the journey without the unwavering support of our commissioner, Stephen Jackson, and the entire commission. Each of you have contributed to our success individually and collectively. There is absolutely no way to adequately thank you for your support, but we certainly want to give it a try. November is National Homelessness Awareness Month. In honor of this commission, please allow us to share this proclamation. Proclamation. Whereas the Caddo Parish Commission, the commission, is the governing authority for the parish of Caddo and is a political subdivision of the state of Louisiana. And whereas the commission was established December 10, 1984, after voter approval of the Home Rule Charter for Caddo Parish on April 7, 1984. And whereas the commission consists of 12 members who are elected to 4-year terms from single-member districts and enacts ordinances, sets policy, and establishes programs in such fields as criminal and juvenile justice, highways and streets, sanitation, planning and zoning, public health and welfare, libraries, culture and recreational facilities, economic development, and general administrative services. And whereas the commission has demonstrated above and beyond its commitment to serve the people of Caddo Parish. Whereas together, the board of directors and staff of Providence House acknowledges the positive change in our community and state because of your outstanding leadership. Now, therefore, in honor of Homelessness Awareness Month, November 19th, 2020 proclaim the naming of room 120 at Providence House, the Caddo Commissioner's Room. Every homeless family that resides in that space will know unequivocally that their well-being, safety, and security, their path forward to a new future was made possible because of the intentional commitment of the Caddo Parish Commission.
Mr. Harris, that's incredible. Thank you for that. I know Commissioner Jackson would like to comment. Commissioner Jackson?
Yes, thank you, Mr. President. And I think that's a first. I don't think we've ever been presented with a resolution, a proclamation, and we've had a lot of great gestures come. Let me go back, and I know Bernie is out, and she's a very passionate leader. But let me thank her entire team for what they do. And you should know, as board president, you have a team of doers on the ground here in Shreveport and Caddo Parish, leading the charge, whether it's homeless services, whether it's domestic violence. A lot of people don't know y'all operate a class 1, class A, I hope I'm saying it right, daycare center. I mean, just so many services that are just beneath the surface. But y'all called my name, but the name who really ought to be called, and I'm gonna pick on him, is Dr. Wilson. He was the one who probably about 4 years ago, who I don't know what the animal service issue we was dealing with, but it kept coming up. It kept coming up. And he said, Commissioner, have you looked at the budget and have you realized how much we give to Providence House versus how much time and resources we invest in animal service? And again, it's not to put, I'm not trying to put people against pets or people against animals. That's not what I'm trying to do. But I took him up on that, and I looked and I saw that we were funding a lot of other, not just animal issues, but we were funding a whole lot of other issues in our community. But we were very inadequate in what we were doing with regard to Providence House and even Hope Connections. And he asked me, he said, do you think that's right? That we put so much emphasis on so many other priorities in our community, and we don't really prioritize the battered women, the families, the people who are waking up, living on the streets. And so I had made a commitment that year, and I reached out to Bernie. And every time I called Bernie, a lot of people don't know, when my mother passed away, the day she passed away, probably within 2 hours, I was on the phone with Bernie Howard, asking her to help me with a personal family matter. And every time she was there for my family. And so Providence House holds a very special place for me. But I really want to make sure that because it was an off the record conversation. I can't remember, Doc, where we were and how it came about, but I remember it. And it was at that point when you challenged, and I know it was me and Matthew Lynn, and you said, y'all ought to look in that budget and see, how much you are putting out funds for different organizations and different things that are not necessarily people-focused organizations. And Providence House throughout the years has been a very people-focused, people-oriented, because y'all are dealing with a lot of vulnerable individuals, dealing with a lot of vulnerable subjects. And so I'm glad to represent Providence House, and I'm proud of what you all do for residents here in Caddo Parish and Shreveport, Louisiana. So thank you all, and we appreciate the recognition that as long as I'm on the commission, we'll continue to do what we can and be an advocate for the work that you're doing. Thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner Jackson.
Thank you.
Well, Mr. Harrison, team, Millie, did you want to comment?
I did have one more thing that I want to share, if that's all right. I'm honored to share a rendering of the plaque that will be on the door of room 120. So it will look something like this. And just so I can read it to you guys, it says, Caddo Commissioners Room, in recognition of the significant contributions made to provide a nurturing space and fresh start for homeless families and children at Providence House. And
Thank you, Millie.
say that again.
That's pretty impressive. Yeah, I think the commission members need to come make a field trip and walk over. It's like Commissioner Jackson said, very few times do we get a proclamation of thanks to us and something like that. That's very appreciated.
Well, it would have been our preference to make the presentation in person, but given the circumstances, we aren't able to. But on behalf of our Executive Director, Bernie Howard, we will release a formal press release sharing the naming of the room, and we invite you all to come to a formal ribbon cutting sometime in the spring with a reception to follow. We would love to have you guys. We are just so honored and grateful for everything that you've allowed us to do for our community. And so we're so grateful for the partnership, and we can't thank you enough.
Commissioner Jackson?
Yeah, Mr. President, and I would challenge the commissioners as well as staff is, I think Millie and Shelley, y'all have a program called the Red Door, Behind the Red Door.
Yes.
I would task everybody, Ed, John, I'm calling names now. Dr. Wilson, take the staff over there when y'all have the employees come in and visit that program that they have called Behind the Red Door. It's a really powerful program. And then I would also task y'all, I don't know if y'all are still doing the graduation, family graduation. I'm not saying I was crying, but if you can leave out of that graduation with a dry eye, something is internally off. So I would encourage people to take a look at the programs that you all are doing, and particularly our leaders initiative.
Thank you, I appreciate it.
Councilman Jackson, we have and I just wanted to make sure you were aware because you were unsure about the name of or the stars for the CDC. We are a 4-star CDC program, and that is very great in this area.
4-star, I'm sorry.
No, not a problem.
Very good.
And that's Child Development Center for CDC, Child Development Center.
Yes, sir.
Right.
Well, anybody else from the Providence House want to? If not, Commissioner Jackson will send them off. Thank you guys for coming down.
Thank you all very much. And the next item on the agenda is Prize Fest, who had intended to have a couple of speakers, but
he had to reschedule. Mr. Everson, can we do a motion to move to the November 30th meeting?
Second.
Okay. All right. That passes by acclamation. We'll move along.
There's not a November 30th meeting, is there?
November 30th work session.
Okay.
That's what I understood. Is that what you intended?
Yes.
Great.
Okay, so it's to move it to the Thursday meeting then. Okay, thank you.
Let's see. That brings us to adopt regular session minutes. We have the regular session minutes from September 17th, October 8th, October 22nd, and November 5th meetings.
Move for adoption.
Second.
I think I'm going to say Epperson was the loudest, so we'll say the motion was made by Commissioner Epperson, second by Commissioner Jackson. Mr. Everson, roll call vote, please.
And just to be clear, this is for an englobo of all 4 of them?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay, just wanted to make sure. Commissioner Hopkins?
Yes.
Commissioner Johnson? Commissioner Johnson, I think you're muted. It's like
He said yes.
I can see you saying yes, so I'm going to count that. Tell me if I'm wrong. Let's see, Commissioner Jackson.
Yes.
Commissioner Young.
Yes.
Commissioner Burrell.
Yes.
Commissioner Cawthorn.
Yes.
Commissioner Dayton.
Yes.
Commissioner Taliaferro.
Yes.
Commissioner Atkins.
Yes.
Commissioner Chavez.
Yes.
Commissioner Lazarus,
Yes.
and Commissioner Epperson.
Yes.
All right, that motion carries with a unanimous 12 in support, none in opposition. And that brings us to special resolutions, where you have 7 special resolutions that were advanced. Many of these are ratifications of resolutions of remembrance and recognition that have taken place in the past. Would you all like me to go through?
Move to and global, and I move to and global and adopt all the special resolutions.
Chair will say.
Second.
All right, we got a motion to englobal and adopt all of them. I'll give that. Commissioner Braille made that second. Commissioner Johnson, did you want to speak on that motion?
No.
All right. Commissioner Hopkins.
Mr. Everson, these resolutions are previous months and weeks before. They will be put into the right minutes. Is that correct? Or
well, they were.
Or they going in all these minutes?
I think they'll go in these minutes with reference to their original dates.
Okay, thank you.
That's how I understand it will be done.
Thanks, sir.
All right, Commissioner Jackson.
Yeah, I just wanted to let Commissioner Talaferro had to do a double take on that Joseph Wayne Johnson. Great Grambling president was Joseph B. Johnson, and so I thought you was giving some kudos over to this Grambling legend there, but I had to do a double take on it. That's all.
All right, Mr. Everson, roll call vote, please.
Commissioner Hopkins.
Yes.
Commissioner Johnson.
Yes.
Commissioner Jackson.
Yes.
Commissioner Young.
Yes.
Commissioner Burrell.
Yes.
Commissioner Cawthorn.
Yes.
Commissioner Gage Watts.
Yes.
Commissioner Taliaferro.
Yes.
Commissioner Atkins.
Yes.
Commissioner Chavez.
Yes.
Commissioner Lazarus.
Yes.
And Commissioner Epperson.
Yes.
Great, that passes with 12 in support, none in opposition.
Mr. Everson, I got a message. Mrs. Woods is still on to speak. I don't know if it's from the Census Committee. Is that correct?
Let's see. I'm not sure if she's still on. There is one number.
Who's the 2686? Is it 5254? 286 5254. Whose number is that?
I'm not aware.
That's Mrs. Woods.
Oh, Jean, did you want to?
Yes, I would. I am so sorry. I've been on the meeting since you started, but I had technical difficulties with my computer for my mic, so I transferred over to my cell phone. First of all, I'd like to say hello to all you guys. Hope you're doing well.
Mr. Chairman,
hey, Ms. Woods.
And
Mr. Chairman, I've
hey,
in the rules to allow for Ms. Woods to speak under public comments.
Get that.
I'm sorry?
We're just doing some parliamentary procedures, Ms. Woods, just to allow you to speak. That'll pass by acclamation. Go ahead.
Okay.
You can proceed, Ms. Woods.
Oh, okay. I was waiting for you guys. All right. It was an honor to serve on the 2020 Census Committee. We did a great job, had a wonderful team, had a lot of fun. I want to give special thanks to my commissioner, Stormy Gage Watts. She did an outstanding job of supporting me on everything that we did. I also want to, who's the commissioner for Clifton Starks? Who's his commissioner? Hello?
I think it's Commissioner
Epperson.
Mr. Epperson.
Yes, ma'am.
All right. That Cliff, like he said, we worked him. And he did a great job. And we want to give him special thanks for us having a meeting room, because without Cliff, we wouldn't have had a place to meet. There was a couple of ladies that aren't on the meeting that weren't here today. Melissa Harkins, Cammie Wright, Sheila Ryder, they are outstanding. Whoever their commissioners are, they were priceless.
I got Cammie.
You got Cammie. Melissa, she is awesome.
Melissa is Commissioner Taliaferro's, and she is great. I know I'm not going to use the word bugged, but she called a lot. She was definitely working it.
Absolutely. We worked it. Also, one of you guys had a question about the numbers on the sensors.
I did,
Yes.
ma'am.
Okay, what was your question?
No, my question was, how did you feel in terms of your thoroughness of the census? Because in census past, there have been some question as to how effective you all were. So the question is, how effective do you feel that you all were in this census?
We were very thorough. We knocked on doors. We held events every weekend. We made phone calls, and I'm not a Facebook person, but Cammie and Melissa and the rest of the group, they posted things all the time. I'm an email person, so I emailed a lot of folks about the sensors, but we did everything we could possibly think of to get the word out about the sensors and to sign folks up.
Well, again, Mr. President, again, as you know, we were, the census was cut short this time, is what I understood, by 30 days. So
this is true.
They should be commended.
They did a lot of work. It was great.
Well, thank you guys so very much for allowing me to speak. And Commissioner Gage Watts, we love you.
Yes, ma'am. And I just wanted to say to you, thank you so much for your leadership, helping to increase the count in Caddo. We truly could not have done it without you all. Even with the challenges of COVID-19, you all persist through all of that. So we are just very grateful for your service and cannot thank you enough for what you have provided for our citizens in Caddo Parish for the next 10 years.
Thank you so very much. You guys take care.
Bye, Jean.
Thank you.
You too.
All right. Bye-bye. Okay, talk to you later, Stormy.
Bye-bye.
All right, I make a motion to go back into regular session.
Second.
All right, that passes by acclamation. Mr. Everson?
All right, we are now at communiques and committee reports.
Well, agenda items, right?
Yes. It's administration responsive to information requests for commissioners. Commissioner Epperson.
Thank you.
There you go.
Once again, I'd like to give accolades, praise, and thanks to all of the medical workers and healthcare workers during the COVID-19 pandemic. Also, a special thank you to the Louisiana National Guard for their work with the COVID testing, with the hurricane and the flooding issues that have plagued Louisiana, as well as doing their normal training and also in preparing to be deployed for overseas duty. As of today, there are 11,647,930 cases of COVID in the United States of America. It's up 172,000. The deaths are 251,756, up 1,923 from yesterday. Louisiana ranks 19th out of the nation with 211,966 cases of COVID, up 2,229 from yesterday. The deaths, 6,179, up 28 from yesterday. Caddo Parish, 11,799, ranked 4th out of the state of Louisiana, up 94 from yesterday. The deaths are 428, up 1 from yesterday. Also, the Department of Defense today reported a record number of COVID infections in our military, 1,324 for the day. This is the largest one-day total. Also, there's an outbreak on one of our United States Navy missile ships with over 2/3 of the personnel on that ship testing positive for COVID. Just want to let everyone know that this is real. Wear your mask, social distancing, and it's not a macho thing to not wear your mask. And when you wear your mask, please put your mask over your nose. It's not a chin strap. and it's not a mute for you talking. It should cover your nose as well as your mouth. So let's think about, we are jeopardizing our national security when we don't follow these COVID protocols.
Mr. Everson, one thing, it's not a hoax either.
Well, 251,000 deaths is no hoax.
Okay.
Also, I'd like to thank Liz Swain with the Downtown Development Authority for putting up the banners recognizing Veteran Celebration Week, as well as taking them down. We really appreciated that, as well as Bossier Parish, Bossier City, DeSoto Parish, the commission, and all of the entities, and the Northwest Louisiana Veteran Cemetery for putting up the banners honoring our veterans in lieu of having our normal Veterans Honor Ceremony and annual Veterans Parade. Also, early voting starts tomorrow, November the 20th. There aren't many things on the ballot. Young folks like me received their mail-in ballot, so you other folks, you have to wait to go to the polls, get in line for the early voting tomorrow. A question of Ms. Frazier, into this legal staff that's in the charter amendments that we voted on. Are they to be placed on a ballot for voting by the citizens?
Yes, sir. They will be placed on one of the spring ballots. I think there are some other matters that we'll be discussing with you to determine which one is the best ballot to place them on.
Thank you. That's all I have, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, Commissioner Everson. Commissioner Atkins.
Thank you, Mr. President. I just wanted to let my colleagues know that the Economic Development Committee met last week to discuss the possibility of providing business licensing fee relief to businesses in the parish. A great deal of data was compounded and analyzed, and no clear decisions came out of that analysis, and we've deferred it to the administration for additional analysis and consideration. So just wanted to let you all know about that. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Commissioner. Commissioner Watts.
Thank you, Mr. President. I just would like to call a juvenile detention committee meeting on Tuesday, November 24th at 12 noon.
Mr. Everson, you got that? Will you send it to everybody?
Got it. Sorry, I was muted. Thank you.
Right.
I've got it. We'll send it out. And Commissioner Gage Watts, I'll get with you to see what you wanted on that agenda.
Thank you, sir.
All right. See no other commissioners on the board. Moving along.
Okay, that brings us to the president's report.
Thank you, Mr. Everson. Residents of Louisiana can save about 5% on most purchases starting tomorrow and Saturday. The state lawmakers have declared this weekend a sales tax holiday in hopes of helping the many people who have struggled financially in 2020. During the holiday, local taxes will still apply, but the state won't charge its rate on purchases less than $2,500. Buyers won't be taxed for online purchases either, but will be charged full price on food from restaurants and when buying a car. Commissioner Everson stated as well, early voting starts tomorrow, November the 20th, and it will go until November the 28th. Of course, they're closed on Sunday. Location's the same one downtown. I know the American Rose Garden tonight is having their kickoff event for the lights. It's going to take place next month, but tonight they're going to start lighting everything. He actually asked me if we could invite any commissioners that wanted to go out there at 6 p.m. He said he wouldn't have all the lights up there, but he'd have a lot. It would be good looking. And then next week, commissioners, obviously it's Thanksgiving. So we have a lot to be thankful for. It's been a crazy year. 2020 has brought about a lot of things that we didn't anticipate. But I think looking back, God has definitely blessed us. Our parish is doing amazing. We have amazing employees that have helped us push through 2020. We have a lot of things to be thankful for. And that's what I really want to push on everybody's heart for next week, is to sit back and look at what we are thankful for, regardless of everything that's happened. Our family sticking together, being able to spend time with our family, and just even each other. We have 12 commissioners who throughout this event have really got along, got together, and helped the citizens of Caddo Parish. So between the staff and the commissioners, it's been really nice to see everybody pull together and work together. And I know Haley put together the presentation on the budget and the projections for next year. And we were quite worried going into 2020 or, right around when COVID hit, but they're not looking so bad for next year. And I know when it comes to Caddo Parish, Stormy put a big push for this, but you can walk into our commission chambers and it says, "In God we trust." And at the end of the day, that's exactly what we do. And that's why Caddo Parish, I think, is doing so well. So thank you for all that. And next week, guys, let's really look back and say, what are we thankful for, and where does it come from? That's all, Mr. Everson.
Thank you very much. And that brings us to public hearing.
Hold on one second, Mr. Everson. I got two commissioners that I see on the board now. I got Commissioner Jackson and Commissioner Burrell.
Yes, I'm sorry, Mr. President. I actually was having some technical difficulties and didn't get in under communiques, and was also thinking that I had our agenda thinking about Monday. But I did want to note that, as you mentioned, Thanksgiving is next weekend. Happy Thanksgiving to everyone. I just wanted to note that there are several organizations that will be partnering with one another with Caddo Council on Aging. Commission President Chavez is one of our volunteers that will be delivering meals throughout Caddo Parish. A lot of people don't know that that a lot of the seniors on that day do not get meals unless they cook. But if you have somebody who is disabled or somebody who is up in age to the point to where they can't cook, they go without a meal that day. And so we have volunteers from throughout the parish. And I just want to thank Shreveport and Caddo Parish for the abundance of support they've shown this particular initiative. We put out a call for volunteer drivers. And in fact, we had to cut off the volunteer sign up pretty early because we had well more than what we needed to be able to make those deliveries. So we'll be partnering. And again, I want to thank Commission President Chavez for being a part of the volunteer crew, and thank the volunteers. As you mentioned, we have a lot. It's been a difficult year, but when we look at the fact that we made it this far, as my big mom would say, we on this side of the ground and not the other side. And so it's something that we all can take pride in, knowing that those seniors will still get a hot meal. They'll get a meal for that Thursday as well as a meal for that Friday. So they will receive 2 meals that day. Now, if they eat it all on Thursday, they're gonna have to deal with that internally, but they will get a meal. Also wanted to note that the lot downtown, there's an event November 20th through the 21st, food vendors. It's a repurpose and reuse of a space that was the Sports Trend facility. It's a great reuse of a place, repurposing of a place. This is the type of development that is consistent. I don't know if Mr. Clark is on with us, but it's consistent with the master plan. How do we take facilities and spaces that we have and repurpose them and reuse them, as opposed to letting them sit vacant? And this is a great reuse of a space in our downtown city. I do want to encourage people as they're out enjoying this particular endeavor, please wear your mask, please still practice social distancing, because although we've seen good news about vaccines, we're still seeing bad results. We're still seeing bad numbers, particularly at the local level as it relates to COVID-19. Dr. Wilson, if you could, please, I saw an article earlier this week about city inmates coming over, or city prisoners coming over to CCC. Are you familiar with that conversation?
Yes, sir. I did talk to Chef Prater a couple of days ago about that.
Okay.
And that's not a done deal. So I think we would have to consent on that because as the facility owners, we would definitely want to consent to that.
Okay, because
And
I would think that not only as the facility owners, we also, you know, I'm always pitching a fit about the cost of healthcare to individuals. I think they got some of the best healthcare in this state, and people who go to work every day don't have that type of healthcare, and they're not receiving those type of meals. And again, I don't want anybody to think that I think that the individuals over there are dehumans or not humans, but that's going to be an added cost, I would imagine. And so if you could, Dr. Wilson, before our next work session or something, provide us with some feedback, some information on what's going on there. I did hear the sheriff say it's only $3, and that's true, that it's only about $3 that they receive, but there's some other costs that go with that $3. There's healthcare, there's food, the maintenance of the place. And I'm sure the more people you have, the more maintenance and wear and tear you have on the place. So there's some other costs that the Caddo Commission would have to incur if that was to take place. And particularly, you know, what would be the rationale behind doing it? That's one of the things that I'd love to know. I don't know where the conversation started, but if you could, Dr. Wilson, please brief commission on what's that going to be and why and that kind of stuff.
Yeah, Commissioner Jackson, we have yet to receive a formal request yet.
Okay.
So, you know, I can approach the CAO of the city of Shreveport about this, but we have not received any formal requests, and I've been asked to speak about the topic yet.
Okay, but there's obviously been some conversation or some meetings. From
yes, sir, they had been, and I've actually had a talk with Sheriff Prater about it as well, because he informed me about what was being talked about, but it was just being talked about and no request at that time.
Okay.
I think any and all measures to do so should consider our feelings and our input because we are the facility owner.
Okay. Okay. Well, we'll look forward to a report or a briefing on that next work session, or when you.
I'll see what I can ascertain on that subject, sir. But nothing should happen without our consent.
Okay. Thank you, and thank you, Mr. President. That concludes my report for now.
Thank you, Commissioner Jackson. I see two other people's hands up, Commissioner Burrell and Commissioner Epperson. Were you wanting to speak under communiques, or is this on public hearing on ordinances?
If you're asking me, Mr. President, it could be under communiques.
Okay. Well, let's go ahead. Commissioner Burrell, go ahead on the communique.
Mr. President, I just want to take this opportunity to say how thankful I am to my fellow commissioners. This is basically my first year, along with some of my other commissioners who this is their first time coming out. I wanted to thank my other fellow commissioners who, you know, in other situations that I've been in, political bodies like the council and the state house. Sometimes you feel uncomfortable, but you all have made me comfortable as a new commissioner. With your tolerance and patience of my questions, because I am sometimes dogmatic. Some has accused me of that. When I do ask questions, I want to get to the bottom of things. And I wanted to especially thank you, Mr. President, and our Vice President for your leadership. I was very pleasantly surprised, and not surprised, but pleased with your leadership during a tumultuous time, and challenging time during COVID, especially during the time that we've had a divided nation, as you know, and still is, dealing with these issues. And I think by setting some example there, we've kept calm in Caddo Parish. The other thing I'm thankful for is to the commissioners for providing the funds needed to fund, to help businesses, employees, and citizens during this COVID situation. This has been a trying time for us all, and I think we should be very thankful to God that He allowed us within our heart to show our citizens that we do care. Because a lot of people, they have a negative opinion of politics these days, but it's a necessary evil. Let me say that. The last thing is that I'm thankful to the citizens of Caddo for responding so well to the help that we tried to provide and the leadership that we tried to provide, because they didn't have to do it. They could really have been a tough cookie, but I think they've been very receptive, and I'm very thankful for that. Thank you, Mr. President.
Well said, Commissioner Burrell. Commissioner Epperson, I saw you on the board, but your hand went down. Did you want to say something?
No, sir.
Okay. Commissioner Atkins, I see your hand up.
Thank you, Mr. President. When I have an opportunity to agree with my colleagues from the other side of the horseshoe, I like to take advantage of those opportunities to unite behind a common agreement. And I'd like to agree with Commissioner Burrell. He can be very dogmatic. That's all I have. Thank you, sir.
I love it.
Hey, more to come. There's more to come in 2021.
It's going to be a great Thanksgiving. All right, Mr. Everson, we'll move along.
All right. That brings us to public hearings on zoning ordinances and cases, of which we do not have any today. And so that brings us then to public hearings on ordinances, where we do have several.
All right, Mr. Everson, I'll declare this time now open for public hearings. If somebody would like to call in and speak either for or against, and while you're reading them off, if they do call in, we'll put them on hold and allow them to speak. If you want to go ahead and read them.
And I'll go ahead and give that phone number before I start reading them. That phone number is 226-6596, 318-226-6596. And the items that are up for public hearing today for people to call for or against are ordinance number 6015 of 2020, and ordinance amending the budget of estimated revenues and expenditures for the Riverboat Fund and the Oil and Gas Fund to provide an additional appropriation for the community policing project and to otherwise provide with respect thereto. The next item is ordinance number 6017 of 2020. It's an ordinance amending and reenacting section 3246 of the Caddo Parish Code of Ordinances regarding the courthouse grounds and otherwise providing with respect thereto. And the final one is ordinance number 6018 of 2020, an ordinance amending the budget of estimated revenues and expenditures for the capital outlay and the Oil and Gas Fund in the amount of $61,000 to provide an appropriation for the construction and improvement of Lakeview Waterworks water system that serves the Lakeview area within Caddo Parish and otherwise provide with respect thereto.
Anybody call in?
Not hearing any calls yet. If we want to give them just a few more minutes, again, that phone number is 318-226-6596.
All right, I'll declare this opportunity for public hearings closed. And Mr. Everson will move along.
Great, that brings us to zoning ordinances for final passage, which we have none today. So the next item is ordinances for final passage. Our first item, and as a note, because we just did public hearings on the other items, this one had a public hearing that took place in a previous meeting. But due to the teleconference scheduling requirements, it's just showing up on for the final passage. And that's ordinance number 5961 of 2020. It's an ordinance amending and reenacting section 4-61 and 4-61.1 and enacting sections 4-63, 4-64, and 4-65.
Second, got a motion by Commissioner Hopkins, second by the chair. Commissioner Hopkins, did you want to speak on that?
Yes, since it's been so long. Again, what this was to do was to set up a alcohol and beverage committee. Of course, it's changed a little bit since COVID, but before that, we were having problems getting quorums to have that meeting where it took seven So this would set up a committee of 5. That committee would be set up by the president to hear the cases, alcohol cases. And then that group would recommend to the full body final suspension on it. So that's really the only thing that's changed. There were a couple things that Commissioner Jackson had asked, because I did change a couple of amounts of the fine. I think in the original intent was never to fine people and try to get their money. It was to try to get their compliance. So I thought it would be an opportunity to lower those fines a little bit, because the person that's actually causing the problem most of the time is not the owner of the property, or it's an employee. And we all know that owners can't always be there. So it just was a way to kind of help them out at that time. That's all I have. Thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner Hopkins. Got VP Johnson.
Thank you, Mr. President. Well, basically, when I looked at it, I saw that the fines had been lowered, and I was totally against it. And I know that we're looking for compliance, but at the same time, sometimes when you affect people's pockets, you get compliance. One thing that I noticed that in the past is when we had some repeat offenders, you basically, once you hit them with a fine and hit them with, you need to do this to upgrade your equipment, then they basically did that and they got into compliance. And I think if we lower the fines, what you end up having is them now going and getting employees that are not suitable to work, which would then create more fines for them in the future. It's all about the quality of employees that you hire in the beginning. So if you hire people and you're gonna pay them $7.25 because you figure that's what they're worth, then that's the kind of output you're gonna get. If you hire some people and pay them a little bit more than that, $8, $10 an hour, then you're gonna get that quality of an employee that's gonna look at and make sure you don't get these citations in the future. So I think the only one that we've actually pulled since I've been on has been in District 2 at the Exxon gas station. And I was wholeheartedly behind it of pulling their license because they did have 3 offenses in 1 year. And it was so close to a high school that I felt that we needed to get the owner's attention. So I just think that lowering it, you don't get the attention that you need to get the compliance that you want. Thank you.
Thank you, VP Johnson. Commissioner Epperson.
All the while I've been here, I think I may have been here when we instituted this policy, and it had basically worked well. Now, once we run for these positions and we learn what our responsibilities and our duties are, we should make sure that we ensure that we are able to carry them out. I don't think we need to set up another committee. I think it has worked well as it has. For what reason you couldn't get a quorum, I think I heard sometime last year. I don't know, but we always have a quorum. I think it'd be easier to get 7 than it would be to get a group of 4 or 5 people to get a quorum to conduct that meeting. And I think it's good that each and every one on this body will have an opportunity to sit there and listen to the proceedings during those hearings, because you can buy some alcohol in an unincorporated area and underage and go down and get in trouble in the city. So what's good for Caddo is good for Shreveport. What's good for Shreveport is good for Caddo. And when you hit your pocketbook, that does get your attention. And we haven't really had anyone that I've seen that's hurt by the current fine that we got, but we certainly got their attention. And a lot of the ones that I have had the opportunity to sit on, they have it was a lesson well earned. So I don't think at this time we need to bother this particular ordinance and make those changes. So I'll be voting against it. Thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner Epperson. Commissioner Jackson. Commissioner Jackson, I think you may be muted.
My bad. I'm sorry. Thank you, Mr. President. I don't recall, Todd, I don't recall ever having an issue. I actually was about to make a motion regarding the committee. I don't have any liquor stores outside in the rural area. So I've never really attended the meetings, and my approach has typically been the commissioners in their areas. I kind of yield to them on what they defer to in those particular areas, because I don't have any. But I guess just listening to the conversation, there may be some more nuances to this. I don't know, because I was just going to say that the committee should be made up of the rural commissioners, so that we don't end up with this. Because if you end up with a president that's more of a city urban commissioner, and then they appoint all the commissioners that are urban commissioners, and then next thing you know, we end up with the same situation that we've had with the MPC. The owners will say, well, none of y'all live in the rural areas, so we are kind of disenfranchised. That's kind of how I was going to approach the committee prospect of it, but I really had not even paid much attention to the fees or whatnot. But I don't know. I guess I'll hear the conversation out and see where this one here goes. But and let me ask you this, Todd. Was it not okay to make the committee the long range planning committee? Because I thought long range planning had some specifications on alcohol and something in it or something like that. Is that not the case? And that's, Mr. President, that's a question to the author of this.
Well, it currently comes to the full body, the way it's set up. And so, I mean,
we couldn't just in his ordinance designate long range planning as that committee or whatnot. I don't know.
You could. I like what you were speaking to just a second ago. I mean, the rural commissioners, and probably most of the commissioners on planning are rural, but not always. And so I think the commissioners that sit on the board that listen to the complaints and then make a recommendation to the full board, they ought to come from commissioners that actually have, like Mr. Johnson, Mr. Talaferra, Mr. Epperson, and myself, Mr. Lazarus. You know, we have a day-to-day.
Yeah, because I could go down there and vote whatever kind of way. Y'all the ones that would have to.
Right. It affects us, probably our district, more at that time. So, you know, I'm open. I think we have some things we need to do on this ordinance, and there's probably some more things that could actually be done. But I just thought it would be easier at the time. We had gone 3 or 4 times trying to have a meeting.
Yeah, I know.
In 2019, and we couldn't get a quorum. So that's when I came up with this approach.
Yeah, I remember you would call me, Todd, and are you coming to ABO meeting? I'm like, for what? You know, so I remember those conversations. So I'll yield to the rural commissioners on this one. This one not my wheelhouse, but I do think that maybe making sure, because I don't see that in the committee structure where it specifies rural commissioners. I do think that should be added in here to safeguard that, to make sure that it happens. That's it for me, Mr. President.
Thank you, Commissioner Jackson. Commissioner Atkins.
Thank you, Mr. President. I make a substitute motion that we retain the language as it currently exists in ordinance number 5961, with the exception of the fines, and return those fines to their current levels.
I'll second that.
But I got the motion by Commissioner Atkins. Who is that second?
Hopkins.
Okay. All right, Commissioner Atkins, you want to speak on that?
Well,
I'm sorry, Atkins.
Thank you, Mr. President. I just saw some concern over reducing the fees, reducing the fines, and this would certainly address that matter. The organization, there have been some relevant organizational issues raised as well, and unfortunately, my substitute motion does not address those organizational issues. Perhaps another commissioner has something else in mind to address those.
Point of order.
Yes, sir, Commissioner Jackson.
Commissioner Atkins, can you make just an amendment as opposed to a substitute motion? Because if you make a substitute motion, those ladies.
That'll be fine. I'll place it as an amendment.
All right, so the amendment on the floor is to keep the monetary fees the way that they are, but construct the committee, correct?
Correct.
Okay. Commissioner Atkins, are you done?
Yes.
Okay. If I can, I'm on the board. I appreciate Commissioner Jackson's thought on that, and I agree with it. I think it should be the committee made up of rural commissioners. So I'd like to make a substitute motion to add that, if I can get a second.
Amendment.
All right. Commissioner Jackson makes a second. It's pretty much self-explanatory. I see Commissioner Epperson, I have your hand up. Is that now or is that from before?
You muted, Mr. Epperson.
I think it's.
I'm up.
Yes, sir.
Okay. I'm going to be voting against both of these. The issue here, ladies and gentlemen, is safety. If an underage kid from the city goes to a rural area and gets alcohol illegally and vice versa, the same thing. We all should have a hand in this. This is a safety issue. Even the city stores, the stores in all these package stores, when you buy liquor, you buy from Walmart or whatever, you got to be ID. This is a safety issue, and boundaries has no limits. And we certainly don't want these kids getting a hold of this liquor illegally. Every May and April, you get something about somebody getting a little something and spiking the punch. And instead of being a happy graduation or a happy prom, you end up with funerals. This issue crossed all boundary lines. And if you don't want to, we got 5 more. This has worked well in the past. This is a safety issue. And I think it should stay as it is. Thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner Epperson. Commissioner Johnson? Hey, VP?
Yes. I totally agree with Commissioner Epperson. This is a responsibility of all 12 commissioners, not just the rural commissioners. Because all our children are impacted by this. All underage kids are impacted by this. And we all should take the same load on this as well, instead of just saying that, dumping it on the rural commissioners, let them do it, and then have to bring it back to the full body when we can have one meeting and get it done and be done with it. I just think that we just need to do one meeting, it's done, and we move on. Thank you.
Thanks, VP. Commissioner Watts. Storm, are you with us?
Thank you, Mr. President. I was speaking and didn't realize that I wasn't off mute. But I was saying that I totally agree with what has been said about holding those business owners accountable, because we certainly would not want us to be responsible for a child getting liquor and being underage and having an accident. That would be definitely something that I wouldn't want to deal with. And it's not just the rural commissioner's responsibility. That is a part of our job description. I've always tried to attend those meetings for that purpose, so that we can make sure that everyone is held accountable for their actions. So I would not be supporting any amendments either.
Thank you, Commissioner Watts. Commissioner Hopkins.
No, go ahead and take me off. It's fine.
Okay. Commissioner Atkins.
Thank you, Mr. President. I just want to be clear. I think all of our objectives is to improve the safety of the parish. And it's my understanding that this proposed change is to make our body more effective in processing these alcohol-related issues. So I just want to be clear. My goal is to make us more safe, not less safe. And I think that's probably the desire of everybody on the commission body. Thank you, Mr. President.
Thank you, Commissioner Atkins. I agree with you. I know one of the concerns that I heard while serving on the alcohol committee was a lot of business owners. They would endure the fine of an employee, and I actually saw that same employee go to a different establishment and achieve a fine for the new business owner. So I actually requested that Attorney Bernstein and I sit down and figure out a way to where how can we attach this to the employee to restrict their ABO in some manner. I get it. We have to, first off, it's the safety of the public, but it comes down to the point where if the business owner has done everything that he can do, if he's provided all the equipment, the training, hired quality employees, but sometimes there's just some employees that they're going to sell it to their friend, or if there's no monetary fine to themselves or punishment, then they don't mind because it's not their business. So I understand what Commissioner Atkins is trying to achieve. It is the safety of everybody, but it's also the business owner is taking the brunt of these fines over and over again when they've done everything they could. And in some situations, we could even close down their business when it just falls back on the employee being reckless. So I see where Commissioner Atkins is going with this. It's definitely not that he's trying to take the safety away from anybody, but it's how do we achieve a better scenario to help the citizens and simultaneously help the businesses. Commissioner Braille?
Mr. Chairman, maybe y'all have lost me as a new commissioner here on this. My question is, are we trying to treat those businesses that are involved in alcohol sales in the parish differently than we do the city?
That's a good question, Commissioner Braille. Here in the city, if employees get fined, they lose their ABO. It does not work that way in the parish. So
why not?
Well, that's like I said, that's something that I actually asked Attorney Bernstein to sit down to see if we can figure out next year. However, for right now, I believe this is what Commissioner Atkins was trying to work on, was to create a more streamlined process in the fines and maybe reduce the amount of fine for the first offense and the second offense to try to get the attention of the business owner. But then the last fine, stick with $1,000 to kind of help the business owner, because typically it's never the business owner that's selling to underage. It's the employees. And even though we've had business owners that have done everything they could, it still wasn't enough. The employee just felt like they either knew the person and they wanted to, or they were just being careless.
Don't we have that same issue in the city also? I sat on the city council for 8 years, and yes, we've had tremendous issues, especially with some of our foreign people that come in that sometimes seem not to understand our laws. First of all, not discriminatory. I just know that those were the ones that I dealt with mostly, that dealt with underage drinking and violation of the law. Now, I'm not understanding clearly the difference between the city, the law as it relates to the city and the parish. We should all be very similar, if not exact, in terms of penalties or fines or legal issues. I'm not understanding the difference between the parish and the city there.
I agree 100%, Commissioner Burrell. We don't have a unified code when it relates to alcohol and ABO cards between the city and the parish. They're two different entities.
Point of order, Mr. President.
Yes, sir, Commissioner.
I just want to correct some what I believe to be some well-intended misstatements by the chairman. I was actually Commissioner Hopkins. It's his proposed ordinance, and it is dealing with forming a committee to field these alcohol-related offenses, alleged offenses, so that we will always have a quorum in place when we meet on these issues. But to be clear, Mr. President, I was proposing that we increase the fines back upward to their original level, so the fines were going to be higher. But higher than proposed in the ordinance. You know, they would be at their current level, which is higher than what's proposed in the ordinance. But all that being said, there appears to be a fair amount of confusion on this issue. And, you know, it might be good for someone on the body to consider moving this to the long range planning committee or some other committee for discussion and working through. Thank you, Mr. President.
Thank you, Commissioner. You are correct. And I was referring to Commissioner Hopkins' initial verbiage of reducing the fine, not yours and increasing it, but you are correct. I may have said Atkins drafted this legislation originally. It was Hopkins. Commissioner Jackson, you're next, and then Commissioner Epperson.
Yeah, I'd like to move to remand this to the Long Range Planning Committee.
Second.
Review.
All right, got a motion by Commissioner Jackson and second by Commissioner Watts. Commissioner Jackson, you want to speak on that?
I also want to make sure that whatever we do, we recognize Attorney Frazier. We have to go back through a public hearing, or Attorney Bernstein, I see you up there, but we have to go back through a public hearing and introduce and do a public hearing again, or how should I make this motion?
If you're going to send this to the committee, what you would do is send it back, and it would be in the same posture it is in now for public hearing and final passage.
So you don't have to go back through an introduction again?
No, not unless you change it substantially.
Okay. Yeah, well, I'd make a motion to remand it back to the long range. What I am clear about, that's what I was getting confused on. Thank you, Attorney Frazier. That's what I was getting concerned about, was that all we are looking at this point with if Commissioner Atkins' motion amendment passed, the fees would still be the same, but the committee, that's all we would be doing, is would be setting up that little committee of rural commissioners. And again, you know, I'm for ratifying, but time after time after time, and I hear the conversation about public safety, but time after time after time, we have yielded to, and it's been a practice, we've yielded to what that commissioner in that particular area has said. And so if that commissioner, there was a time where Doug didn't want it, and that was an issue, and I think Doug eventually prevailed on that issue. Todd, if you can remember, that was that one time, and that commissioner prevailed on that. And so we have consistently yielded to the commissioner in that district, and that's going to continue to be my practice, is to yield to those commissioners who have to go out there and deal with their constituents on this matter. And so maybe some more thought on it. We got the chief on the phone. Maybe y'all could reach out to SPD as well to see what it is the city is doing and how they deal with it. But hopefully we won't overcomplicate it. I think it's a little bit simpler than what it is at this point. So thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner.
Point of clarification.
On the point of clarification on the motion?
Actually, on what Commissioner Jackson was just saying, since he touched on the city, again, I'm only saying that the city is going to have to deal with this too. I would prefer if it's a rural matter, you know, rural commissioners deal with many of those issues, but this is one that there's not a wall between the city and the parish when it comes down to alcohol. So I really think that you should get some input from the city on this too. I mean, in terms of how this is structured, not that they're governing it, but like I said, we've dealt with these issues, and if a kid go out, or if somebody goes out and buy in no man's land out in the rural, they can still come back to the city and still violate the law. So I think there should be some sort of continuity between them. I'm not saying they're the same, but some continuity, Mr. President. Thank you. That was my comment.
Thank you, Commissioner.
I still had the floor, Mario. And Commissioner Burrell, you're right. And what I'm saying is the intent of Commissioner Hopkins was to have continuity. There were times when they couldn't reach a quorum. And so I think that's what his purpose of this small sort of subcommittee could achieve the quorum, and that's where I was going, was making sure they had effective representation. But I agree there should be some continuity between the city and the parish. So I think we're all, the vast majority are saying the same thing. And I think maybe the committee can sort through whatever the differences are. I'm almost positive they can.
I agree with that. Thank you, Commissioner Jackson. Commissioner Epperson, you with us?
Call for the question on the motions.
Second.
All right. Mr. Everson, roll call vote on call for the question.
Okay, roll call vote on call for the question. Commissioner Hopkins,
Yes.
Commissioner Johnson,
Yes.
Commissioner Jackson,
Yes.
Commissioner Young,
Yes.
Commissioner Burrell,
Yes.
Commissioner Cawthorn,
Yes.
Commissioner Gage Watts,
Yes.
Commissioner Taliaferro,
Yes.
Commissioner Atkins,
Yes.
Commissioner Chavez,
Yes.
Commissioner Lazarus,
Yes.
and Commissioner Epperson.
Yes.
All right, that motion passes unanimously. And so that brings us to the motion that is on the table, which is to remand to the Long Range Planning Committee. That was Commissioner Jackson's motion. And that's Commissioner Hopkins,
Yes.
Commissioner Johnson,
No.
Commissioner Jackson,
Yeah.
Commissioner Young,
Yes.
Commissioner Burrell,
No.
Commissioner Cawthorn,
No.
Commissioner Gage Watts,
No.
Commissioner Taliaferro,
Yes.
Commissioner Atkins,
Yes.
Commissioner Chavez,
Yes.
Commissioner Lazarus,
Yes.
and Commissioner Epperson.
No.
All right, that motion carries with 6 in support and 5 in opposition.
Hey, Mr. Everson,
Yes.
commissioners, if I
Don't
can make a
care.
motion-
They don't care. They don't
sorry.
care.
I'm sorry, did I count wrong?
That would have been 7 in favor.
Yeah, that's 7.
It's 7 in favor. Yeah, it is. I'm sorry, I misstated that. It's 7 in favor, 5 in opposition.
Thank you, Mr. Everson. Commissioners, I wanted to make a motion to suspend the rules and expand the agenda and add, we forgot to have the public hearing for the budget on this agenda. So if I get a second, we could expand the agenda and add that. So the motion on the floor is suspend the rules and then expand the agenda.
Second.
All right. Pretty self-explanatory. We need to put the public hearing on the budget on the agenda, and that was left off. So for a clerical issue, Mr. Everson, can we vote on suspending the rules and expanding the agenda?
Matt, suspending the rules is what we're voting on now. And
Yes.
Okay, Commissioner Hopkins,
Yes.
Commissioner Johnson,
Yes.
Commissioner Jackson,
Yes.
Commissioner Young,
Yes.
Commissioner Burrell,
Yes.
Commissioner Cawthorn,
Yes.
Commissioner Gage Watts,
Yes.
Commissioner Taliaferro,
Yes.
Commissioner Atkins,
Yes.
Commissioner Chavez,
Yes.
Commissioner Lazarus,
Yes.
and Commissioner Epperson.
Yes.
Okay, that passes unanimously to suspend the rules so that you can take up.
Now I'll make a motion to add the public hearing on the budget ordinance. If I can get a second on that. Second, thank you. Remember, we have to pass this unanimously.
And we also you need to give a chance for folks to speak for or against expanding the agenda.
Let's do that. We'll give them a brief moment to call in. If you want to state the phone number.
Sure, that phone number is 226-6596 for those who want to call for or against expanding the agenda to add this item.
And this is, in case the public's watching, this isn't a sinister move to expand the agenda to add the budget. It's just a clerical issue. It was left off the agenda. We actually go to budget December the 1st.
That was December 3rd.
Is it the 3rd? That's right. Commissioner Johnson moved it.
I believe it's actually the 4th.
On a
It's one of
9
those days.
Yeah,
It's one of those days.
I believe it's been added. It was moved to the 4th in the morning. The 3rd is your next regular session meeting. So you will have another regular session meeting before you consider the budget.
Perfect. All right. I'll declare this opportunity for public hearing closed on the expansion and the addition. Mr. Everson, roll call vote, please.
Okay, Commissioner Hopkins,
Yes.
Commissioner Johnson,
Yes.
Commissioner Jackson,
Yeah.
Commissioner Young,
Yes.
Commissioner Burrell,
Yes.
Commissioner Cawthorn,
Yes.
Commissioner Gage Watts,
Yes.
Commissioner Taylor Farrow,
Yes.
Commissioner Atkins,
Yes.
Commissioner Chavez,
Yes.
Commissioner Lazarus,
Yes.
and Commissioner Epperson.
Yes.
Okay, that motion passes, carries unanimously. And so the agenda will be expanded. Let's see, in this instance, would we put this under new business, I believe?
We already passed that section, correct?
Yeah, we've passed that section where it would traditionally be placed. But we can, since it's an expanded item, we can put it under new business and do it.
That
then.
works. That works. Thank you, Mr. Everson.
Okay, we'll add that, and then the next item on our regular schedule is the ordinance number 6015 of 2020, and that's an ordinance amending the budget of estimated revenues and expenditures for the Riverboat Fund and the Oil and Gas Fund to provide an additional appropriation for the community policing project and otherwise provide with respect thereto.
All right. Commissioner Taylor Farrow.
Yes, Mr. President, fellow commissioners, I have spoken with Chief Ben Raymond, and after our conversation, I'm making a motion to withdraw 6015 from the agenda for consideration. Thank you.
All right. Chair will second that. Did you want to make any more comments on that, Commissioner Talaferro?
No, sir. I think that there was some additional confusion, and I'll take the blame for a majority of that, and not the clerk. But after speaking with Chief Ben Raymond, he is very satisfied with the amount of financial consideration that the commission has already granted them, and so we're just going to leave it at that.
Sounds great. Commissioner Jackson, did you want to make a comment?
I want to acknowledge that the chief was here, and if we are always hospitable to our guests if he wanted to make some comments. And I know Commissioner Teleferro still kind of in the lay of the land. We typically would have did this ahead of time. We wouldn't have let the chief endure. I'm sure he'd rather be here than out on the call. But yeah, he just wanted to extend the invitation to him to say some things.
Thank you, Commissioner Jackson.
Chief.
Sir, thank you. I really don't have any comments, Commissioner Jackson. As has been alluded to in some emails, our budgetary situation recently appears to be changing for next year. And so we're grateful for the opportunity the commission granted to provide some funding for additional training. And we're going to, that will still be utilized in a worthy manner. And we'll kind of see what the future brings us. I do want to thank everybody for your assistance, especially when we were unsure of our financial situation for 2021.
We may be coming to ask y'all for some money.
Yes, sir. I understand.
Thank you, Chief.
Thank you.
Thank you, Chief.
Thanks, guys. Thanks for coming on, Chief. All right, Mr. Everson, roll call vote on removing it from the agenda.
Commissioner Hopkins.
Yes.
Commissioner Johnson.
Yes.
Commissioner Jackson.
Yes.
Commissioner Young.
Yes.
Commissioner Burrell.
Yes.
Commissioner Cawthorn.
Yes.
Commissioner Gage Watts.
Yes.
Commissioner Taliaferro.
Yes.
Commissioner Atkins.
Yes.
Commissioner Chavez.
Yes.
Commissioner Lazarus.
Yes.
And Commissioner Epperson.
Yes.
All right, that motion passes unanimously. and the item is removed from consideration. That brings us to the next item, which is ordinance number 6017 of 2020, an ordinance amending and reenacting section 32-46 of the Caddo Parish Code of Ordinance regarding the courthouse grounds and otherwise providing with respect thereto.
Move to adopt.
Chair will second.
Second.
Commissioner Jackson, would you like to speak on that?
Yes, Mr. President, thank you. I know we had, and I spoke to, I appreciate the clerk for sharing those public comments. I spoke to Mr. Will James, and we are on one accord about what the actual intent of this legislation is for. It definitely was not, he and I spoke just before the meeting, it's definitely not intended to discourage demonstrations. I regularly have conversations with the administrators over at the courthouse, as well as the captain over at who's responsible for the courthouse. And it just happens this time of year, they know we're going through our budget process. And so they usually come, Commissioner Chavez, and ask for those bullets. And you know, it's one of those things we say, well, I can't help you with that. What else can I help you with? And these were some things that we identified and working with legal and working with Dr. Wilson to put this together to basically tweak the ordinance that we put in place for the courthouse grounds. And what I want to say to demonstrators and protesters, you can rest assured that you have an advocate in me with regard to demonstrations and protests. But we want to make sure that one, the courthouse grounds is accessible to everybody. As I explained to someone this morning, you wouldn't want for at January 1 at 12 p.m. Somebody who may be opposite of you coming to book the courthouse grounds for 365 days, and you got there at 12:02 and you were just late. And so again, it's not to be targeted toward anybody. It's not to stifle free speech or the ability to do demonstrations. It's to make sure that we have equity with regard to access to the courthouse grounds and make sure that we're not interrupting the court proceedings that are going on. If you have a case going on where you had a situation where the grand jury was being to consider excessive force by police officers, and you've got a demonstration out there that's anti law enforcement, that could possibly be a case to overturn that, because you know defending attorney couldn't say that that demonstration influenced it, and we know that our practice has been, Attorney Frazier, I believe our practice has been to deny those applications when court is going on, but we do not have a formal policy that sets it in place. And so that it's not just a practice, we're codifying and making it a policy. And so this is just basically just tightening up the ordinance that we already put in place, I think in 2016 or 2017 sometime. Thank you, Mr. President.
Thank you, Commissioner Jackson. I would definitely state that of the 12 of us, I do think that Commissioner Jackson is the biggest advocate for freedom of speech. And I'll add that today's background is rather nice.
Oh, thank you.
Commissioner Johnson.
Thank you, Mr. President. This is to administration. Do we currently have a policy on issuing those permits to individuals?
Yes, sir, we do. Attorney Frazier monitors that. President.
So in that process, is there a written policy already?
I'm not sure. Attorney Frazier, you'd like to address that question, please?
We have stated it before in email, Commissioner Johnson, but it's not, hadn't been done by executive order or anything like that.
Okay, so basically this could be done through our policies and procedures as opposed to an ordinance.
Correct.
Okay. And do we have a number of incidents in which warrants to make a major change?
The incident that brought about the policy in the first place was we had someone who was attempting to secure the courthouse for about 9 months of protests. And we knew we had to limit that because it was not going to be fair to other persons who wanted to use the courthouse. Since that particular time, we have not had those kind of requests anymore.
Okay. And then even if court is going on and people wanted to protest, they could actually protest on the sidewalks and get away with it.
Well, the sidewalk is under the city's jurisdiction. I don't know if they have something that would deter them from having protests during time of court is in session or not, but that is under the city's jurisdiction, not ours.
True, but they don't. You can protest on the sidewalk all day long and not be hampered by the city of Shreveport law enforcement. Okay, that just answers my questions. I don't want to get too far into regulating the courthouse grounds, since taxpayers are the ones who basically pay for it, maintain it. And, you know, if there is one that wants to do something of that, we can do a procedural or policy change as opposed to creating a law to prohibit them from doing that. Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Vice President. Commissioner Jackson.
Yeah, Dr. Wilson. Is Doc still on?
Doc,
is that policy, or is Erica on? Is that policy is administered by the one that you said, the executive that was just put in place by the administrator, or the practice that y'all have, that's administered, or that came from Dr. Wilson or Erica, or where did it come from particularly?
Commissioner, this is Donna. I can answer that. It came from Dr. Wilson at my recommendation.
Okay, and I know y'all are young and in the prime of y'all careers now, but do y'all intend to be down at the parish forever, or are y'all looking to retire? I'm not saying when, but at some point, are y'all hoping to retire at some point?
I think I'm gonna retire the next 100 years.
We got you for the next 100 years.
Anyway,
this would be an exercise in futility if we got you. But you making my point though, Dr. Wilson, is that we won't have you around, and so the next administrator could choose. It would be their prerogative, Dr. Wilson, correct?
Yes, sir.
It would be their prerogative to utilize that policy or not. And so basically what this does is put a procedure from the commission in place, codifies what we're trying to do, and put that in place. And so I ran this by legal, I ran this by Attorney Frazier. In fact, the ordinance you basically see is the language that they are using. And so it is basically taking that and codifying it so that, you know, when all of our times are up, we know that we have best practices in place. And so I ask for our favorable adoption of this. Thank you. Thank you, Mr.
Thank you, Commissioner Jackson. I see no other commissioners on the board. Mr. Everson.
All right, again, this is to adopt 6017. Commissioner Hopkins.
Yes.
Commissioner Johnson.
No.
Commissioner Jackson.
Yes.
Commissioner Young.
Yes.
Commissioner Burrell. Commissioner Burrell, I didn't hear you.
Yes.
Thank you. Commissioner Cawthorn.
Yes.
Commissioner Gage-Watts.
No.
Commissioner Taliaferro.
Yes.
Commissioner Atkins.
Yes.
Commissioner Chavez.
Yes.
Commissioner Lazarus.
Yes.
And Commissioner Epperson.
Yes.
All right, that passes with 10 in support and 2 in opposition. And then that brings us to ordinance number 6018, which is an ordinance amending the budget of estimated revenues and expenditures for the capital outlay and the oil and gas fund in the amount of $61,000 to provide an appropriation for the construction and improvement of Lake.
Move to adopt.
Second.
Second, got a motion by Commissioner Johnson. Who is that second?
Hopkins.
Hopkins, all right. Commissioner Johnson, would you like to speak on that?
No, just briefly, I did meet with Lakeview the other day. They had a board meeting. And like I mentioned the other day, that this is something that is mandated by LDEQ, that they have this chemical injection put in for the lines that are in the Lakeview area. Some of those lines are old, and they have basically come up with some iron in it. So this is like a corrosion inhibitor that they have to put into the water to try to keep that iron in place. And basically it's for a shed to be built, the pump station, and a day tank and a storage tank.
Thank you, VP. I show no one else on the board. Mr. Everson?
Commissioner Hopkins,
Yes.
Commissioner Johnson,
Yes.
Commissioner Jackson,
I'll be a good human today and vote yes.
Commissioner Young,
Yes.
Commissioner Burrell,
Yes.
Commissioner Cawthorn,
Yes.
Commissioner Gage Watts,
Yes.
Commissioner Taliaferro,
Yes.
Commissioner Atkins,
Yes.
Commissioner Chavez,
Yes.
Commissioner Lazarus,
Yes.
and Commissioner Epperson. Commissioner Epperson, I didn't hear you.
Yes.
Thank you very much. That motion passes unanimously with 12 in support and none in opposition. And that is the end of our ordinances for final passage right now. That brings us to zoning ordinances for introduction by title, of which we have none today. And then our next section is regular ordinances for introduction by title, where we do have a couple. We have 16.1, which is introduced ordinance number 6019 of 2020, an ordinance authorizing the use of the budgeted emergency aid funds in the reserve trust fund for the year 2020 to provide emergency aid $500 to 500 families affected by COVID-19 and to otherwise provide with respect thereto, from Commissioner Gage Watts. And the next item that we have is 16.2, the introducing of ordinance number 6020 of 2020. It's an ordinance to amend Article 6 of Chapter 32 of the Code of Ordinances of the Parish of Caddo relative to regulation of noise to prohibit the use of engine brakes on Jefferson Page Road and to provide for the penalty for violating said prohibition. And to otherwise provide with respect thereto, from Commissioner Epperson. And that brings us to work session minutes, where we have
Move to englobo and adopt the work session minutes, the resolution number 75, the holidays for parish employees.
Second. Second.
All right.
okay. And who was the second on that? I heard a few.
Hopkins.
Commissioner Cawthorn.
Cawthorn. All right. Mr. Everson, roll call vote, please.
Commissioner Hopkins,
Yes.
Commissioner Johnson,
Yes.
Commissioner Jackson,
Yes.
Commissioner Young,
Yes.
Commissioner Burrell,
Yes.
Commissioner Cawthorn,
Yes.
Commissioner Gage Watts,
Yes.
Commissioner Taliaferro,
Yes.
Commissioner Atkins,
Yes.
Commissioner Chavez,
Yes.
Commissioner Lazarus,
Yes.
and Commissioner Epperson.
Yes.
All right, that is adopted unanimously with 12 in support and none in opposition. And that brings us to the item that our agenda was expanded to accommodate, which is the hearing on the budget.
All right.
So move.
Second.
Second.
Got a motion by Commissioner Watts, second by, I think it was Cawthorn.
That was Johnson.
It was, okay, Jackson.
Johnson.
Johnson, got it. VP.
The other J.
Whoever wants, we'll give it to Commissioner Epperson. And Mr. Everson, roll call vote, please.
Wait, just to make sure, we're not, we don't need a motion here. What we need is to make sure, and it came under new business, so I understand that is not traditional, but But what we need here is to open the public hearing and give the public an opportunity to call in.
Hey, you know what? I'm glad you mentioned this. I had a caller that mentioned Mr. Everson. They thought that they could only call in and say yes or no, but they could actually call in and make a comment on it, correct?
They can.
Yeah, that's what I thought. So we'll open the floor. What's the phone number?
The phone number is 318-226-6596. That's 226-6596. And you know what they may have heard is that often when the public hearings are opened, you may say if anyone would like to speak for or against. That is the traditional language that is used to open the meetings, but they are welcome to elaborate on their comments beyond that.
Right. Yeah. It's of course it's been a tough year for Zoom and communications get unclear, but definitely the public has the opportunity to speak. Not just say yes or no, but for, against, and the reasons why.
I may add, Mr. Chairman, that Zoom has been a lifesaver. No
I'll
pun
agree with
intended.
that. It was
No pun intended.
right. It was a little complicated at first, but it's really come together. Mr. Everson, anybody calling in?
We have received no calls. No.
Okay. I'll declare this opportunity.
You seen the stock price on Zoom?
It looks like we do have a call. Could you hold 1 minute and let me make sure if this is 1 moment.
Thank you.
Okay, commissioners, we do have a caller on the line right now. If you could go ahead and begin your comments, and you'll have 3 minutes.
Because the item, my name is John Glover. Because the item was omitted on the agenda.
Did she get cut off, Jeff?
Miss, yeah, can you hear her?
No.
Okay, I'm sorry. We're having a let me double check and see if I can get this microphone to pick up better. 1 moment. Okay, can you speak, Ms. Glover, and see if we can hear you?
Yes, I'm here.
Can y'all hear her?
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay,
Yeah.
we can hear you. Please proceed with your comments.
Okay, as it was initially stated, this agenda item is being added. So I wanted to know how it is that we can say yay or nay when we don't have the particulars of what the agenda is truly addressing. Thank you.
Does that conclude your comment?
Yes.
Thank you very much. We appreciate your call. All right, that is the only call that we have received.
And Mr. Everson, well, Commissioner Jackson, are you on the board?
Yes, sir. Attorney Frazier,
Yes.
would you advise us to just maybe have a emergency meeting to have this public hearing on this budget to make sure we are good, or could we do it at our next regular session? Do we have like some notices requirements?
Well, Commissioner, you actually have 2 budget hearings. You actually have one that was supposed to be today, and it's my understanding that was, even though it was not on the printed agenda, that it was advertised in the official journal. If I'm wrong about that, please correct me. But it was introduced, and the ordinance was introduced, and the hearing was advertised for today in the official journal. The hearing will be advertised again for the special budget meeting in December. So there will be a second public hearing on the budget. Now, if I'm wrong about whether or not a public hearing was advertised today, then it would probably be better to have another meeting.
You're
But
not wrong. You're not wrong. It was advertised in the journal.
Yes, I verified as well. It is in the official journal.
Okay, all right. I just wanted to make sure we don't get tripped up on some thing. Okay, all right, thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner Jackson. All right, I believe that declaration was closed for public comments. Mr. Everson will move along.
Okay, that brings us to communiques and committee reports. And under this section, you will see we received a letter of resignation or a letter requesting to not be reappointed from one of your appointees, Nancy Cooper, to the Metropolitan Planning Commission.
We got that. And now citizens' comments.
Okay, citizens' comments, late arrivals. Again, we can give that phone number out as 318-226-6596. That's 318-226-6596. Not received any additional electronic. Hey, I'm not hearing any calls coming in.
Move to adjourn.
Second. Bye.
Thanksgiving, guys.